An old woman who is slightly crazed informs us that she positively saw a ghost last evening in the shape of a lank skeleton, without anything to be seen but bones. She says it is frightful to look upon, and she is all of a tremble ever since. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to part 2. In this part, we talk about ghost panics, ghost pranks, ghost hunting. We start in England, where we spent the bulk of our last episode, but then we come to the US and dig for some historical examples in American towns and cities of people reporting on and chasing down apparitions. In truth, you probably don't need part 1 to follow these stories, but it's all helpful information for context, and we definitely recommend the full 2-part series. This part is a bit casual. We talk about pranks, especially since Doug was a bit of a delinquent in his youth and adolescence. Our stories start out maybe a little grim in parts, but they also swing into some pretty funny stuff until Doug and I are both giving our best, breaking news voices to talk about 20-foot apparitions and ghosts yelling swear words. So there's a range tonight. When we started the podcast a couple months ago, we committed to essentially a mini-series through the end of the year on some timely fall and winter subjects, but we're into it now. So we're going to keep going, and we have a list of what we'll take on in the new year. So thank you for your early interest in the Midnight Seminar. Once more, happy holidays. Here's to ghosts and having a lark on a cold winter's eve. And stick around if you have no idea what that means.
I'm genuinely excited for this conversation.
Me too.
The last one was really fun. And
yes.
This one feels more like going into a haunted house, because I don't quite know what's in store for me, and I find that very exciting. So
I think that's
cool.
A pretty appropriate setup, honestly. It is kind of like going into a haunted house.
Yeah, maybe I should dim the lights.
I don't know how scared you'll be tonight, to be honest. The history is really interesting. I said we were turning away from purely fictional stories and getting into some real stories.
Yeah.
And we're going to be hearing from a bunch of journalists and from different historical accounts now.
Okay.
One cannot draw a hard line between journalism and blatant fiction in the age of journalism that we are diving into here. You probably know this.
Actually, I don't, and I would love to hear you say more about that.
The press was all about sensationalism. So taking stories and making them lurid and wild, taking, more than some creative liberty in things like, I don't know, brainstorming implications, all the things that you might expect people to.
And presumably they didn't have a robust system of journalistic ethics established in professional organizations at that point. I don't know.
If they did, I don't know what the hell those organizations spent their time doing.
Well, sweet. Now I'm even more excited.
Yeah, it is really great. We can definitely gather that real things happened, but it's not a trustworthy news apparatus because it is so highly sensational.
Okay.
So I wanted to walk you through some of the ghost panics that gripped various locations around Britain in the Victorian age.
Great.
And these were kind of auxiliary to the ghost stories told besides the fire, like we talked about last time.
Mm-hmm.
They took place out in public rather than in the home, and they were very theatrical, and they're pretty forgotten.
Okay.
Which is, I think, surprising once you hear some of the stories. This was like the practical effect wing of the cultural obsession with ghosts.
Okay.
It's a little, it can be tragic at times, but it is mostly so fun to think about. I've said the words ghost panic.
Yeah.
What comes to mind if I just say that phrase?
The first thing, I'm just imagining widespread fear and public discussion about ghosts and ghost sightings.
Yeah.
How close am I?
Yeah, that's good. People thought they saw ghosts and they panicked about it.
All right.
So that's dead on. Also, they like panic together in community. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds like it was a cultural moment. It wasn't just a bunch of random people in private panicking on their own.
Exactly. Yes, we said this last time, but in Victorian England, there is this open question, both in literature and in published essays and public conversations, general public discourse about the existence of ghosts. At the time, the church is officially saying no when it comes to homegrown concepts of ghosts. They have rejected ghosts more or less as a Catholic superstition since the Protestant Reformation. I'm oversimplifying a little bit. You can dig in and really get into the theological questions. I don't think it's totally worth doing that here, because just because the church is saying something is so doesn't mean that people are, upending their belief systems and just accepting that at face value.
Okay.
People are still totally afraid of ghosts. People want to talk about ghosts and tell ghost stories.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time. I read this really fun little book that consolidates a lot of this history. It's called Phantoms of Christmas Past, Festive Ghost Hoaxes, Ghost Hunts, and Ghost Panics by Paul Weatherhead. It's a new book, and it's about these ghost panics or some quieter hauntings in England surrounding the Christmas season. The book covers the time between 1804 and 1926. So that's like the whole of the 19th century into the 20th. Our Victorian era is squarely in that. And of course, like the cultural trends of the age did not like materialize when Victoria took the throne and then die when she died. So everything we talked about last time is still very much our backdrop here. So basically, people thought they saw ghosts in public outside at night, and they panicked about them. And then people gathered to figure out what was going on, either because they wanted to experience the mystery, it was something exciting and confusing, or because they wanted to hunt the ghost, or more accurately, hunt what they suspected was a person dressing up as a ghost deliberately to scare people.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Someone in a ghost costume.
Yeah, someone with a sheet thrown over their head.
Yeah.
These panics could get rowdy. Just to say, this wasn't strictly confined to the Christmas season. These happened all year round, but it was prevalent to Christmas and, of course, like tied up in the same time of year that provides so much darkness outside and so much reason for telling the ghost stories inside. Also, like alcohol, there's lots of merriment happening.
Yeah.
That ends up bleeding into this history as well. People are reading periodicals by the fires. Newspapers also specifically look for ghost content to cover at Christmas time to participate in that holiday ghost market.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a whole industry around this.
Wow. Okay. So if I'm a journalist in Victorian England and it's like late November, early December, I might start putting out a call to all of my sources, like, got any ghost sightings lately?
Yes, you would. And if you weren't finding what you wanted, you might just make things up completely. You might do that. And you're going to see stamps of that in the stories. You always read, for example, that women just like dropped dead on the street from their fragile constitutions upon seeing someone in a sheet. Really intense stuff. There's very, very little proof for any reactions of that magnitude that anyone had. The gendered dimensions of the story can be pretty frustrating to read now, but they add to, the drama of the stories as period pieces. So you want to hear a case?
I want to hear a case, yes.
All right, I'm going to bring you to Hammersmith. Hammersmith, England.
Okay.
We're in the winter between, that starts in 1803 and then goes into the new year, 1804. This is probably the most famous ghost panic, the Hammersmith ghost. I've seen this one mentioned in a few places, kind of either like offhandedly as a particularly notable ghost panic, or covered in more detail, like the account in Paul Weatherhead's Phantoms of Christmas Past. It was a big deal, and the full incident spanned several months, even years if you want to consider the backstory, but it's really in this winter of 1803 and into 1804 through the holiday season that the bulk of the action happens.
Okay.
Hammersmith is in West London, but at the turn of the 19th century, it was still fairly rural and grew a lot of the food for the cities in farms and in orchards. So it wasn't way out in the countryside. It was big enough for crowds to gather on candlelit streets if something, say, of note started happening at the time. It is also not a densely populated London scene of today.
Okay.
So rumors started as early as October that somebody or something was out and about at night, especially in the churchyard, moving among the graves.
All right. Sounds like a good classic setting for a ghost.
Yes, we have everything we need. According to Weatherhead's account, the townfolk thought it might be a so-called mad woman in strange clothing wandering that corner of the neighborhood. But it turned out that it might have also just been a local boy up to some mischief in a dress. So the author, like, again and again refers to people. He uses the phrase having a lark, that everybody was always out having a lark.
I have no idea what that means.
I know, neither did I, but I found it so delightful. Like playing a prank, basically. Having some fun, playing a prank.
All right, yeah. I like to have a lark every now and then.
We all love to have a good lark. So that is very often undergirds these stories, but that is, of course, not the end of the story here. We're barely getting started with it. Weatherhead says, quote, other uncanny figures started to haunt Hammersmith. And this is as the winter starts settling in. So there are steady reports of apparitions, meaning figures draped in white cloths. By Christmas, people are kind of reporting some crazy things. People start reporting that the apparition has large horns and cloven feet and glowing eyes.
Ooh, this is getting sinister. Can I ask, who are they reporting this to? Like the local police or?
Yes, they are definitely reporting to the local police or writing into the newspapers.
Okay.
Some people say that the ghost appears as Napoleon Bonaparte.
I feel like I've heard some tale of Brits seeing the ghost of Napoleon.
Yeah, I mean,
Maybe
I guess that reflects
one, yeah.
a real historical anxiety, the Catholic-Protestant beef, you know?
Yeah.
I'm not too sure. Napoleon seems like a good candidate for a ghost, though, doesn't he?
Yeah. I don't know why he would be in Hammersmith at this particular time, but...
Others, though, are still just reporting seeing a sheet-clad apparition.
Okay.
And the creature's dominion seemed to be spreading too. So people would hear uncanny noises, and people were so consumed with fright that they became afraid to leave their homes at night. And of course, then we eventually get reports of women, like always only women. And in fact, one pregnant woman being frightened so badly at encountering the ghost that they go home and die of shock.
So that's wild.
That's wild.
Like I'm kind of wondering about just the logistics of this style of reporting. Like, do they name a person or do they just say, you know, like a woman dropped dead? Like what? Because if you have to name names, there's a limit to how much of this stuff you can just fabricate, you know?
Yeah, it could be either. People definitely got caught in the lies, and I think you're going to see that in another story.
Okay.
Weatherhead ends up saying a pregnant woman actually was really frightened out on the streets at this time. And he says, but by a drunk, not a ghost. And she didn't die.
Okay.
So it might have just been spinning some actual story into a much more lurid supernatural tale.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that was going on too.
Yeah, that was written by a journalist who didn't get any tips for the ghost season.
If if you just poke around and find accounts of this story, you will often find that little tidbit that a pregnant woman died of shock.
Okay.
And then if you start to follow up on it, it falls apart. But that's not to say that there isn't real panic happening. Many people suspected that it was just a prank, but it was a scary one. And there were these reports of injuries and deaths related to the prank or haunting or whatever it was. So the next big step happened, as it often did in these ghost panics, and that was the formation of night patrols or community watches, or enthusiastic mobs of people that start watching for the ghost and have the intention to capture it. What a Christmas season it was this year, Doug.
Yeah, I wish there were a local committee ghost hunting group that I could join this Christmas season.
I know, that would be great.
Do you dare I ask, do you happen to know how they intended to catch the ghost? Like, were they going to lasso it with a rope or put it in a box, or?
It is definitely like a physical charge with weapons.
Okay.
Because again, a lot of these people, maybe most or almost all of these people, are expecting that this is a person dressed up and that they can grab that person to expose them.
Right. Okay. Got it.
And also, you still have all your open questions about what the heck a ghost even is and how corporeal it is. Again, this is an early episode. This is just after 1800. So, the jury's out on what a lot of this might mean.
So something weird is going on. Let's gather together whatever weapons and ropes we might need and go take care of it. That's the vibe.
Absolutely. And this went right on through the holiday season and into the new year. And then, unfortunately, like a verifiable tragedy does happen. So, on the evening of January 3rd, 1804, a young bricklayer named Thomas Millwood had to run an errand after dark. And I assume you already know everything there is to know about the normal uniform and dress of early 19th century British bricklayers. So it will be no surprise to you at all that Millwood was dressed in his usual professional garb, and that was white flannel clothing, head to toe.
Oh, no.
Including an apron, like a little bit of a billowy apron, and maybe also a cap. So yes, you can see where this is heading.
Oh.
Apparently, his mother-in-law also saw the potential for him to be mistaken as a ghost and advised him to go out wearing a long coat to cover up his uniform, but he set out without a coat. Another lad, one Francis Smith, had teamed up with a watchman to stake out the neighborhood that night. And they did so after sharing a few pints at the local pub.
Naturally.
Smith loaded a musket and concealed himself in the shadows. And it wasn't long before he spotted a figure in white. He called out to this figure. He got no reply, and he fired his musket.
Oh, my God. That's terrible.
Yes, killing the 22-year-old Thomas Millwood.
Oh, man.
I know.
It's like such a bold move to just fire under those circumstances. That's terrible.
Yes, it is. It is. This goes to court, of course. And this case, I think, is probably the most famous ghost panic case because it becomes this true crime.
Yeah, right.
People are sympathetic to Smith, the one who fired the gun. There was a lot of public appetite to hunt down the ghost. So what happens is pretty interesting. A jury tries to deliver a verdict of essentially involuntary manslaughter. But the judge does not allow it because that was not what the man was on trial for. He was on trial for murder, and the jury had to find him guilty or not guilty of murder.
Oh.
And the man himself, Smith, he had reportedly been like really somber and sober throughout this whole trial. He had a lot of remorse. But of course, he admitted to shooting Millwood, despite whatever the circumstances were. He fired the gun and Millwood died. So he's found guilty. The penalty is the death penalty. But what actually ends up happening is a commuted sentence, and he only ends up serving the better part of a single year in prison.
Whew, wow, what a roller coaster.
What a roller coaster, but there's still some story left to this one.
Okay.
Obviously, the panic had escalated to a literal deadly degree.
Yeah.
By the end of January, the whole episode wrapped up not just with the trial, but with the revelation that the real culprit had apparently been caught.
Oh, so there was someone having a lark.
There are a few open questions in this mystery.
Okay.
The ghost hoax, someone dressing up in a sheet and scaring people, would forever be attributed to a shoemaker in town named John Graham. And Graham actually admitted to playing the ghost to scare his young apprentice and like teach him a lesson. I know, which like sounds so like kind of wholesome and amazing.
I want the details of that story.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it boils down to this apprentice had been like scaring Graham's kids half to death with one too many ghost stories. And so
God.
that's it. Yeah.
So he had it coming.
Yeah, and so Graham carries out what he said was just this one-time hoax on December 29th, scaring his apprentice and then outrunning a watchman on a public chase that then led to several additional witnesses that night.
A wild ghost chase.
A wild ghost chase. Yes, it is exactly that. Of course, this episode, if we're looking at December 29th, people already have ghosts on the brain. There's already ghost sightings in town. So you can imagine a case in which several people might jump in and take advantage of a moment like this, playing the ghost here and there for just a moment because you have this framework into which that behavior so obviously fits. So he said that it was only the one night, but the papers never let him live down his association with the hoax. They also end up publishing really cagey accounts of another perpetrator, but they never name that other guy because apparently it was someone of high reputation and wealth.
Ah. A story as old as time.
I know. The papers were in this for headlines and for sensationalism, for jokes. They even made wisecracks almost immediately following the death of Thomas Millwood. And then like shoddy reporting and scapegoating Graham, that was good enough for them in the end. But was it really Graham all along?
Yeah.
Was it this other unnamed gentleman? Or was it perhaps that others, dead or alive, stalked the dark streets of Hammersmith?
Oh, that's good. There's like a couple of interesting philosophical questions that come up for me listening to this. One is about the sentencing of the bricklayer. Sorry, I can't remember names.
The bricklayer died, and the guy who shoots him is Francis Smith.
Oh, right. Yeah, sorry. Francis Smith, the killer of the bricklayer, whether he should be charged with murder. This is an interesting question, and it's an interesting legal question, too, actually, that I've thought about. If you do something that clearly is wrong and or violates the law, but it wasn't what you intended, how do we make sense of that? And in some cases, we've come up with ways of handling this, like involuntary manslaughter.
Right.
This is a tricky case because the person didn't murder the bricklayer with the intention to murder a bricklayer.
Yeah.
So it might matter what he was thinking. Is this and it matters whether he thought he was shooting a ghost or a person pretending to be a ghost.
Yeah.
If he thought it was a ghost, then it gets interesting because how do you evaluate the action of someone who has a belief like that?
Yeah, it kind of matters from a legal perspective whether or not ghosts are real or are at least cannot be proven unreal beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm using very American language to talk about the legal case. Obviously, this is a 19th century British court. I don't know exactly what all the terminology is, but I think we can think about it in our own kind of frame of reference pretty effectively. But why are you shooting a ghost? Like, what good is that going to do?
Yeah, so it seems like he had to have thought it was a person.
Or is just really acting out of fright? not a good time to be operating heavy machinery and or a gun.
Yeah, possibly.
It's sad, right? The story really hinges, right? It changes.
Yeah.
And the story becomes very tragic, not just because you have the death, but then you have this awful mess for the living after this.
Yeah. Well, this gets into my second question then, which is what should be done? Like when that person confessed, the shoemaker confessed that I did it, but just the once, who did he confess to? Was it like a court of law? Was it, and did he get some kind of punishment?
Graham apparently kind of admits this to the press.
Okay.
And then there are reports that he's brought before a magistrate. But Weatherhead's book says that appears to be untrue.
Okay.
But Weatherhead also says this. In any case, there was surely public ill feeling against Graham, who seems to have become something of a scapegoat. A rumor spread that Graham was to be publicly shamed and forced to stand in the church wrapped in his white sheet for all to stare at. Vast numbers gathered to witness the spectacle, though, of course, it never happened.
Oh, man.
When people did manage to actually run down and capture someone playing the ghost, typically what ensued was like some type of public flogging, like taking the person and dumping them in a river.
Oh my God.
I know. It's kind of like, I definitely laugh at it too. It sounds kind of funny. Like, okay, you've been doing this stupid prank and now a bunch of stupid people are going to go dunk you stupidly. But of course that could turn violent or dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's really rowdy out there in the ghost panic world.
Yeah.
But it is sort of like street justice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is classic case of vigilante justice.
It is, yeah. And it's funny when it's like smaller and quaint, but then you have it, in these punctuated moments become really serious.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. We can keep going.
Well, actually, I'm going to keep you in Hammersmith because they're under panic again just 20 years later.
Ooh, all right.
This time they think it's a monster stalking their streets. Although, to be fair, there's a considerable amount of flexibility in the terminology that one decides to use for these types of local haunts.
Okay.
But reports circulate in the 1820s about the Hammersmith monster who has metal hooks that it uses to slash at people.
Wow. All right. We're getting more advanced now.
Yeah, this sounds totally far out, but it was not totally unlike the London monster of the late 1780s.
Ah, are we thinking Jack the Ripper? Or...
No, Jack the Ripper is later than this.
Okay.
The London monster is ultimately suspected to be an artificial flower maker in the city. Just kind of wreaking havoc.
All these poor craftspeople getting caught up in the monster ghost panics.
I know. So that had become, a monster hunt. And then people, again, go on the hunt in Hammersmith. One method for ghost hunting or monster hunting was to have a group of young strapping lads dress up in women's clothing and then play the part of damsels in distress. Right,
Okay.
so they're trying to set a trap.
Yeah.
Paul Weatherhead says that this occasion would have been, quote, a boozy festive lark by the young bucks. It didn't work in this case. There are other reports of other people trying this at other times. It didn't seem to catch this particular monster. But, right, like there's really front and center revelry in all of this. Like it's wild,
absolutely.
but the people involved would have been self-consciously having some fun with this. And again, definitely drinking alongside doing this. I already said when people did manage to catch ghost hoaxers, they would wail on them, they dunk them in rivers or down sewers. So that's what people are kind of going for. But this Hammersmith business ends in perhaps another case of scapegoating.
Okay, how so?
That's also a theme here. First of all, nobody who convincingly fit the description of having claws or any other fantastical elements of the sightings ever emerged. Weatherhead brings up the possibility of what he calls a phantom attacker panic. And apparently it's not unique for a place to make up a villain and then essentially have like quote unquote victims play into the storyline by staging their own attacks. So he mentions that this ends up happening in the case of the Halifax slasher in 1938. So that's way later. And I didn't look into that case, but apparently people kind of like lightly slashed up themselves wanting to participate in the story.
Lightly slash themselves up. Oh my God.
I know, it sounds pretty intense. If we don't want to go quite that far, you can still imagine, I think, people acting out under the assumed identity of this nebulous boogeyman. Like maybe really terrorizing other people if they're not slashing up themselves. A lot of that was likely happening in these ghost panics.
Yeah. Okay.
People want in on the story. That's not hard for me to believe.
Yeah.
In this case, it's hard to know what the extent of the actual damage was because Weatherhead reminds us like the papers failed to name victims in the first place.
Yeah, this is a real mess. From like,
Yeah.
I imagine that for you as a historian, this must be a nightmare trying to like dig into this stuff.
I've spent a lot of time in historical newspapers.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, we always kind of land in this place that all of that is not to say that there wasn't something happening, right?
Right. I mean, it seems clear that there was something happening, but we can just get like a sense.
Yes, and you get a sense that they tend to spiral into something so fantastical as they gain more and more interest, and then it's much harder to tell at the time and from the historical record what the hell is actually going on.
Right.
Do you want to hear about another case?
Yes, please.
I like this one. We're going to jump to the very end of the 19th century now. And this one does not end in tragedy, and it doesn't happen in Hammersmith.
Okay.
So this one is 1899. And of course, by that time, we have our Victorian Christmas ghost culture in full swing. So the following excerpt of a letter written by one James Chant appeared in the Islington Gazette on January 3rd, 1899. On Christmas night, while passing the old parish church, I was startled by seeing a figure in white standing in front of me. I stopped when it seemed to vanish towards the church. It didn't go in a gliding way, as spooks generally do, but in a very clumsy manner.
Okay.
I made for him, but he was too quick.
Oh, the clumsy ghost was too quick.
In a very clumsy manner. I love that. Yes, so our good people of Islington, which is in North London, start to congregate. This was, of course, entirely predictable. This was a very well-established pattern by the 1890s. Also, predictably, things could get a little rough in these flash mob scenes. People, of course, would get jostled and pushed, perhaps sustain minor injuries. They might also notice that a wallet or pocket watch or purse would go missing. So if we want to invoke another Dickens tale, Oliver Twist, picture those iconic little London pickpockets of the earlier 19th century. It was quite the institution. So I'd like to add in this case that these ghost chases are happening over and around tombstones.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Yes. There were sightings and attempts to catch figures in the shadows, and also probably a lot of boozy shenanigans. And you have people running around the cemetery. They're pranking each other. They're getting their pockets picked. Like, it's all going on.
Yeah. Sounds like a
It's
party.
all going on. It's quite the party. So what happens is people try to follow up with this Mr. James Chant, the man who wrote this initial letter into the Gazette. And no one can find him. And it seems like actually nobody really knows of him.
Oh, okay.
So you asked before about how far the papers would go in attributing something.
Yeah, maybe making up their own sources.
Yes, we have to keep that on the table here. There is a theory that this was actually the work of a ring of pickpocketers that kick off the hoax so that they would get a very accessible group of easy targets out on the street.
Well, that sounds brilliant.
Right? It is easy enough to send a fake letter into the press and start a rumor, especially when there are so many similar rumors that have circulated before. So I don't have an ending for that case. This is a short one. The attacks and the rumors seem to have kind of peaked and then died out. But I think the case is a really good reminder that people are always way less interested in like mundane explanations or debunking than in the incredible version of the story and what it might be. So we don't really know what happened in Islington, but it was another one of these Christmas season ghost panics. And it has this particularly interesting twist of this mysterious letter in the paper and then this, plausible theory that you can just start a rumor like this because you want to pick people's pockets and you need more people outside in the winter.
That's great.
Yeah. And again, that one was almost 100 years after the Hammersmith cases.
Yeah. Wow.
I wanted to ask you, I have two questions here. My general question is, why do you think some people are drawn to pranks? And then my second question is, are you?
Okay. So I'll answer the second question first.
Yeah.
Yes. I always have been. What draws people to it? I could try to think about what drew and to some extent still draws me. They're funny. It's like
I think this has to be rooted in humor.
Like and they're fun, mischievous. But this isn't really answering the question because you could ask like, why are some people just drawn towards that particular form of mischievous entertainment? I don't know. Like, I will say, here's something I can say that is a partial explanation in my case, and it's a little bit less fun. But in my case, I actually do think when I was younger that it was a way of making myself feel superior to others. Like, I can pull this off and they're not going to know. And it was rooted in that to some extent. If I would ever get like bullied or something, I would pull pranks because it was like a way of going on the attack.
Yeah, it's like an intellectual attack almost because it requires planning and then execution.
Yeah, but that's definitely not like, I think the primary motivation to prank people. Like if I pull a prank on Angie, I don't think I'm trying to like assert myself as somehow, superior or something.
Right.
I hate when why questions about human beings or human psychology, I really don't like when they bottom out in some kind of brute appeal to like, well, some people are just wired that way. Some people are just, because it feels like maybe that's the explanation at some point, but that's basically the end of explanations. You're kind of just saying, I don't know, but that's the way it is.
Yeah.
I like pranks, always have, and I don't think I have a good explanation of why people are drawn to them. But I would love to hear your answers to those questions too.
I'm a little pranky. I'd say I'm definitely on the like super wholesome, almost pathetic side of pranks.
Okay.
One of the earliest ones that I remember pulling, I don't know how old I was, maybe 4. I just like put on every single t-shirt that I owned. And then like I went downstairs and I was like, Mom, I'm hot. And she like pulled off the t-shirt and there's another one under it. And this just kept going on and on and on.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I love it.
I think I had some sense that it would be funny for them and for me, and that it was kind of like this little show. So I think things like shyness or things like if you're really worried about being a rule breaker or getting caught in something, that might deter people from pulling pranks.
Yeah.
I was always very like headstrong. I wasn't afraid of getting in trouble. That didn't rule my life. And so I think in that way, my personality lended itself to pranks. I was also just higher energy than, for example, like my brothers, who I would not say are very pranky. I've ended up in so many like scaring each other wars with friends and roommates that we like had to come together and be like, we must stop this. We are terrorizing each other. We have to stop hiding in each other's hampers, climbing on top of furniture and jumping down each other. Like we need to draw the line because we're ruining our nervous systems.
Disarmament.
So I've been through that several times. I am also originally from New Jersey, and New Jersey and the surrounding area in the Mid-Atlantic is a region in which you express love and friendship by giving each other shit.
Yeah.
It's like very much part of affection is trusting someone that you can kind of do these little bits together.
Yeah.
That's not the same exact thing as a prank, but I think it's in the same family of behavior as a prank. And I love when strangers play small pranks on each other.
This will give you a sense of the kinds of pranks I pulled in high school.
Well, I know what kind of heists you pulled in middle school.
Yeah, all
school.
kinds of stuff. I also should say, or should I say, I made a decent amount of money in high school recording myself doing prank calls, burning them onto CDs and selling the CDs. It got to the point where it got really out of hand. And anytime someone would get prank called in the town, they would assume it was me. So I once came
You started a panic. You started a public panic.
I came to school one time, and I'm not going to name any names, but big scary person number one pointed at me in the hallway and literally did this motion, the like thumb across the neck, like you're dead. And I was like, oh no, what does big scary person one want with me? Like, what did I do? And we ended up getting into an actual fight. Like, he came up, shoved me from behind, and like slammed me into the locker and accused me of making prank calls to his family. And I was like, no, man, I swear, like, whatever, it wasn't me. He's like, I know you're the prank caller, whatever. And we ended up getting dragged into the principal's office. And this is no lie. It turned out someone had been calling and threatening to kill this kid's family.
Oh my God.
And I was like, listen, man, I don't like you. Like, we're not friends and we don't get along. But that's not my style. Like, I do prank calls to be funny. I don't like threatening to kill people is not what I would it's not how I would make a prank call. And the principal is like mediating between us. And then he says, I've heard your work, Doug, and this doesn't sound like it. And it turns out he had a copy of the CD and was like, yeah, I don't think that's not this guy's MO.
It also, from what you're saying about how rooted in adolescence some of this is, it is very developmentally appropriate to want to push boundaries and to see what you can get away with. That's all very normal. So perhaps this manifests differently for different kids, and pranks are a byproduct of that, like, totally kind of normal development. When you bring in, like, ethics.
Yeah.
You know, the lines are never going to be perfect. And I can hear in your stories that you went a lot further than I ever did.
And I'm like, not telling all the stories either.
Right,
Some of them went pretty far, yeah.
But, I mean, not to the extent of calling somebody and threatening to kill their families, right? Like, that's really egregious. That's actually scary.
Yeah, that's not a prank.
No, that's not a prank. That's a threat. Like, that's scary. I think you'll see this illustrated really often in movies about, like, teenagers or something, where something gets out of hand because there's one person willing to take it a lot further than the others. And then in the moment, it's like, do you follow along or do you stand up and say, no, we have to draw a boundary line here? So my sense is that this is a pretty normal thing that teenagers navigate, and you could actually have some really interesting ethical questions about, like, when a prank becomes something else. Once there's harm, you know, you start to be in dangerous territory, but you can also define harm very differently in different cases. You can also not realize something is escalating to that point, right? That brings us back to the shoemaker putting the sheet on. He couldn't have known that a few days later somebody would shoot a guy and kill him. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Would you put on a sheet and go prank people as a ghost? Like, is this something?
This is a very important question. I have to say yes. Ghost-related pranks are definitely one of my pastimes.
How do you feel about, like, a more elaborate version of this, where you're, like, making someone fear that the house is haunted by, like, I mean, I don't know what the details are, but, like, you set it up so that they're going to hear weird noises, and you kind of play into it to, you know, did you hear that? Yeah, I heard that too.
Oh my God. Well, If someone did that to me, that person would forever be my best friend. Like, that would just be the greatest gift anyone could give me in my life. I think it would really depend on the person if I was going to try to orchestrate something, whether or not I think that they would ultimately have fun with it, or whether it might be tapping into like real fears that
that's
they
a good
have.
point.
I think, it would be fun to pull that type of thing on like a skeptical person, but maybe a person who you think is bluffing a little bit.
In their skepticism. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the perfect person I would love to do that. We need to identify such a person.
What about you? I'm assuming that yes, you would do this and you would like to have it done to you.
I would definitely like to have it done to me. I feel the same as you in that I would really need to know the person well. And even if I know someone pretty well, I might not know that specific aspect of them. Like, how are they going to respond to a possible haunting? You know, with a friend like you, it's very obvious. With some other people, we don't talk about hauntings too much, so I don't know.
Yeah. All right, great stuff. Let's go back to our ghost panickers.
Okay.
I got very curious about whether this also happened in the United States. The book I read was particularly about English cases. In a lot of ways, this really was a British phenomenon. But I had heard of ghost mobs gathering to look at alleged apparitions in New York City in like either the late 19th or early 20th centuries. I knew I had heard stories about that, and I definitely knew that newspapers reported on ghosts. So I started digging around online, and also I got these books from like the Gettysburg gift shop online. It's a multiple volume set, and it's called Histories, Haunted Headlines, Hauntings and Ghostly Encounters Throughout the United States as Reported in American Newspapers.
All right. That's great.
Yeah, it looks through the 19th century. A guy named Adam Shefts is the one who compiles these.
Okay.
But as I flipped through the books, they looked very familiar to headlines that I've either heard of or come across, you know, listening to other podcasts or doing some reading about the history of odd things. So I dug through those, and first I would actually love to say a little bit about how ghosts tended to show up in the news.
Okay.
I think that that's a pretty interesting topic.
Yeah.
Definitely not necessarily connected to Christmas in any way. And it's true that British and American newspapers all the year long would have reported on ghostly things. But again, we do have the connection between Christmas and ghosts in the 19th century, and papers played with that. So you might see an uptick. You might see certain types of stories in the wintertime. We haven't really gotten into this yet, but this is all happening with the backdrop of the spiritualist movement by the time we get to the late 19th century. And again, we will talk about that at length, probably in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, let's
that
do
we've
it.
like started discussing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for now it can be sufficient to just say things like seances, psychic mediums, technologies that apparently enabled people to talk to the dead, things like Ouija boards. That's what we think of now is the Ouija board, but there were others. Those get really popular after the 1850s, especially after the American Civil War, when so many people died. And there are so many people looking to cross that veil in some way and speak to dead relatives or dead loved ones. It ended up basically constituting a religious and social movement called spiritualism, very much interested in the ways people might be able to communicate with the dead. Fair enough?
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So we'll return to that, but it is an important backdrop, and that movement does start in the US. So that's something that you see reflected in American newspapers. But when newspapers report on other types of ghostly things, like sure, they'll report on the seances, but they'll also get into debates about ghosts existing. They'll report on local serious investigations or these types of flash mobs. They'll note haunted locations. They would also like really make jokes at people's expense about how stupid it was to believe in ghosts. So you see a whole variety of things in the press.
Okay.
So just for a taste of some of those, let's do some short ones.
Okay.
Some short headlines. I gave you some of these. I would love for you to read that one from the Pittston Gazette.
Okay. The Pittston Gazette, Pennsylvania, December 20, 1860.
Do you have like a press voice?
Yeah, let me try that. The Pittston Gazette, Pennsylvania, December 20, 1860. A local boy says he saw a ghost. It was white. Flew up over a fence, looked like a white woman, a white dog, or goose, or something else. Thinks it might probably have been something else, but is positive it was a ghost, as he saw it himself, though he doesn't believe in such trash.
Absolutely hard-hitting journalism right there.
What a... Wow, that showed up in an actual newspaper.
In an actual newspaper. A lot of ghosts reportedly took the form of dogs and made the papers in the 1850s. Huh. That was like kind of the beat.
Interesting. Now that's like... I mean...
Like, there are probably stray dogs.
Exactly. Like, yeah, I don't know how seriously to take this. But it's a bit alarming to me. Could have been a woman or a goose. Like, what?
So that one is the Christmas season. It's possible that they just wanted some, like, spooky flair to kind of, to the extent that Americans did, which was a small extent.
And if some local boy, like, your neighbor's little son.
There is always a local boy seeing a ghost.
Then you could write it. A local boy did say it. And he said it could have been a ghost. It could have been a goose, a woman. It just sounds like you're reporting something your neighbor's toddler might have said.
Which seems to be exactly what this is. It does really sound convincingly like a kid.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, I'll read one from the Brooklyn Daily Eagle.
All right.
From June 25th, 1851. So we're stepping out of the Christmas season. These are in no particular order or anything. They're just headlines I found. My only press voice is way too modern, but
that's okay. I don't have a modern press voice. I in fact only have
the vaguely English
19th century voices.
Okay. An old woman who is slightly crazed informs us that she positively saw a ghost last evening in the shape of a lank skeleton, without anything to be seen but bones. She says it is frightful to look upon, and she is all of a tremble ever since.
Nothing to be seen but bones on that skeleton.
I mean, that one's pretty rude. An old lady who is slightly crazed, okay. I do like the all of a tremble. I like that phrase.
That's good. I like the reporter voice too, actually. It works.
It's so inappropriate for our time period, but we're going with it. A lot of reporting was kind of like this, though. Person sees ghost. They're crazy.
Yeah.
But the tone was not always dismissive. In this case, it obviously is, and I don't know what's going on with that first account of that little boy. But
that one's wild.
I gave you another one that I would love you to read out of California.
All right. The Pleasanton Star, California, April 14, 1884. A gentleman whose word cannot be doubted says that while on Main Street in this town one night recently, near the meat shop, he saw the spirit of some departed giantess. He says she appeared to be 10 feet high and walked through the air. He tried to get away from it, but could not. It made no noise while following him. To say the man was badly scared would be mildly expressing it. All right, that's good. So very different in terms of its attitude towards the gentleman, whose word cannot be doubted.
Yeah, apparently the skeleton was way too outlandish in Brooklyn, but the giantess floating through the air is just fine.
Yeah. It's so interesting. You really don't get this in modern reporting. Just someone said this, and that's the whole story. Someone told me this. That's it. And this is like a giantess floated past me by the meat shop.
Can more people tell me things like this, please?
Get that into the editor before the end of the night. This one's going to be the story of the day.
I know. It is really just somebody said something crazy. Back to you.
Oh, these are good.
I could go for more of that, I think. Yeah. Okay, this is my favorite one. This is the last one we'll do.
All right.
This is a Christmas season one. December 29th, 1887. the Altoona, Pennsylvania Tribune.
Oh, I'm from very close to Altoona.
Okay, then this one's for you, Doug.
Okay.
An Omaha man saw a ghostly figure under his window and poured a pitcher of water upon it. The spook swore in vigorous English and ran away at a lively rate. Yeah, so obviously this last one gets us like into the firm territory of pranks.
Yeah.
The others hadn't necessarily gotten us there,
right.
Though maybe were possibilities. People dressing up as ghosts. And while that pastime doesn't seem to have escalated super often into these like ghost flash mobs like was happening in England, there were little ghost panics in the US. And I had to dig to find Christmas examples, but I do have a few.
Let's go.
All right, let's put ourselves in the Cleveland, Ohio of 1862.
All right.
That is the American Civil War.
Okay, good. All right. Not a peaceful time.
Cleveland is a Union stronghold.
Okay.
That's not exactly relevant to the story, but it feels like pretty important background. So we'll put that on the table for us. It is a city, though it's not a huge one. There are brick homes for the wealthy. Workers live in boarding houses, like pretty standard for the time. The city starts to have a problem unrelated to the war effort. And that is that there are too many people dressing up as ghosts.
No.
So ordinary citizens are literally taking up weapons against them.
Oh my God.
Their arsenal included clubs and revolvers and anything in between. So that's assuming, of course, the skeptical angle, right?
Yeah.
Reports at the time also indicated that people believed they were seeing a massive ghost as tall as 25 feet.
Wow, that's bigger than the giantess of California.
I know. Maybe they were friends. This ghost was especially haunting a downtown church on Erie Street. So on Thursday, December 4th, 1862, a party of armed men lurked around the cemetery after the most recent ghost sighting. So here's an excerpt from the Cleveland Morning Leader. About midnight, one of the party who had got a little ahead of his fellows ran back, hatless and pale with fright, exclaiming, "I have seen him! I have seen the ghost!" Okay, so right away, several people in the party remembered that they actually had somewhere to be right then. Oh. They really must be going. They had a thing, and they scamper. But the bravest among them start to advance with their weapons ready. And as they approach the spot of the sighting, they see it. Here's another excerpt. The horrible specter was revealed to them, swinging its weird arms in the moonlight and nodding its head in a most diabolical manner.
Wow, okay.
So, the group scatters. They weren't really ready for what they found in this cemetery. The account that I'm reading says that only one soul is ultimately brave enough to approach and then make to club the ghost. Okay, here's the article again. Down went the ghost, and down went the ghost hunter, for his club met with but little resistance. Lo! He found that the ghost was a woman's nightgown, which had been left out on a clothesline.
You'd think that by the time he got close enough to club the thing, he would have figured that out.
The people around him really did not exactly instill bravery, I think.
I'm trying to picture, what conditions could make this, like it's a dark night, let's say it's foggy. Not good lighting. Maybe you're out by torch or something.
Yeah, and then you have this thing whipping around in the wind.
Yeah.
Again, we should leave on the table that some of this is made up.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I think we are dealing with moments of social panic. We might be dealing with moments of people having drank a lot and then set out and then start feeding off of each other. And then they all start running the different cardinal directions. And this one guy's just like, I'll get it, climbs over a fence and stumbles into the nightgown.
I'll club that ghosty.
I poked around and there are like little whispers of this story on the internet. And I think you are most likely to hear an account of this story if you take a Cleveland ghost tour.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, which I would love to do. The panic in Cleveland apparently actually lasted several years. And surely nightgowns were not the regular culprits in all cases, but we get this fun December anecdote, and we see Cleveland, like, again, perhaps because of the heightened tension due to the war, experience a similar type of panic to ones that we saw around London at the same time.
Yeah.
There's one more, and I would love for you to read this if you want to.
Sure.
We are going to Mexico, Missouri. Missouri is in like the northeast corner of the state. It's kind of equidistant from St. Louis and Kansas City, like kind of between the two.
All right, so this is the synopsis. The Mexico Weekly Ledger reported the story of the recent overnight misadventure of Ab Armstrong and Sam Baskin on December 13, 1888. Armstrong and Baskin were employees at a local roller skating rink, which had come under suspicion of being haunted. This rink had upstairs offices, and the two men set up camp in one of these offices directly above the rink to spend the night. At 3 a.m., loud noises, described as thumps and whirs, jolted the two men awake. They continued to hear noises from below and mobilized to investigate the disturbance. They apparently had access to a pistol, which Armstrong grabbed, and also to the keen investigative skills of a once officer of the law. That was Baskin. Here's what the newspaper report said. At first, neither saw a thing. Then Baskin's watchful eye, trained by long experience as an officer of the law, discerned a figure sitting on a bench near the wall. The figure leaned over, apparently adjusting something to its feet. Presently it got up and started across the floor, skating. It took perhaps a minute for the figure to reach the door at which Sam and Ab were standing, but in the interim each particular hair on the heads of both gentlemen found its way straight up. Armstrong was the first to regain his presence of mind, and he hurled his pistol at the advancing skater. The weapon went right through the fellow at about the point where his stomach should have been located, and the figure kept right ahead. Both men were frightened half to death, and with a howl, Baskin slammed the door in the face of the apparition. The pair hastily fastened the bolt, and with a timorous glance over their shoulders, returned to the floor above. Whoa. Okay, so first of all, roller skating rink in 1888. Who knew? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yes, that was right about the time that they would have been getting popular.
Wow.
And I think the first roller skating rink is actually in London in, I want to say, the 1860s. This kind of comes up in some of the gender in sport stuff that I teach. So I think I'm basically right about those things. But what a fun setting for a haunted.
A haunted
right?
roller skating rink. That's amazing. Surprised we've never seen, like, that I know of, any movies about, ghostly skating rinks.
There should certainly be more. There's no big public event in this one. It is in the rink, but I thought it was very slapstick, very sitcom, very charming.
It is. And it's really, I mean, it, like, just even the way the article is written, I see what you mean when you say it's not easy to draw a line between journalism and fiction here. Like, there's clearly a concern to, like, make this fun and engaging the way you would tell a story. Like, yeah, as it's skating towards them, in the interim, before it gets to them, each particular hair on the heads of both gentlemen found its way straight up. Like, that's not the sort of detail that nowadays we would expect a journalist to throw in, because first of all, how do you know what their hairs were doing? But it's like, it's interesting, and that's normally the domain of a novelist or like a fiction writer, but it's cool.
Yeah, I think that some updated version of something like this could still appear in like a fun, very local newspaper.
Yeah.
Some local story that is supposed to kind of make you laugh. You're like in on the joke with the paper, and it's kind of like a little holiday thing. This to me, it's very much an artifact of its time, but I recognize something in this about just kind of like having fun in your community, like a paper reporting like a cute little story for some flair.
Yeah.
So what are our options for understanding the story, though? There's always the option that the newspaper made it up.
Honestly, this one feels too elaborate for that to be the first explanation I would reach for. This would be pretty bold for someone to just cook up out of nowhere.
It's also possible that the guys
made it up.
Yeah.
True.
Publicity, that's a possibility. There's a possibility of a prank. And I love the moment where the guy throws his pistol. He does not fire his pistol, which is good. And then it like goes through the ghost. This is happening in like a dark rank. Totally possible that he threw something and missed, right? But then you have this great sensational detail that it actually went right through the apparition. And then I think another option for understanding this is like, ghosts just wanna have fun. And they're just skating, and I love that, and I hope that it's that one. I would definitely go to like a roller skating rink as a ghost after hours.
Oh, that would be so
amazing.
fun. Yeah.
I mean, you probably will actually do that as a ghost since you have like a secret history as a very talented inline skater.
I might. Yeah, I might come back and haunt some of the skating spots.
These are just anecdotes that I picked out after some digging, but I really like thinking about this whole concept of community hauntings.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. We have local legends and rumors and stuff, but I think it's rarer to find anything quite like this happening today,
for sure.
Something at this scale.
Yeah.
That makes me sad. Yeah. And it kind of makes me wonder about a few questions that I thought we might turn to in the last phase. Just thinking about the way that these stories leave open a lot of possibilities, and they are fun, but they also seem to reflect, again, a genuine question about whether ghosts are real and the wide opinions on that. What do you think are our most salient general questions about ghosts today?
Oh my goodness.
It's a big question, I know. I think we've gotten at little pieces of this as we've talked, but if ghosts were going to like show up in our newspapers, or if people were going to be talking about ghosts more publicly or something, where are we at with ghosts?
Well, part of the reason that we don't find stories like this so often anymore is that I think how to put this, like to the extent that people do either believe in ghosts or hold open the possibility of there being ghosts, it's been sort of like pushed underground, and it tends to be shared in the context of like good friendship. It's not the sort of thing that you certainly wouldn't call your local newspaper and be like, I saw this ghost, because they're going to think you're crazy. They're not going to take you seriously. So part of what is different about our setting is that the whole cultural context is just very different in that respect, in terms of what is considered plausible and possible in public consciousness, so to speak. And you could roughly equate that to like what sort of thing would show up in a respectable newspaper. and ghosts just not so much. You might find like a kind of human interest story where the emphasis is on what it's like to be someone who believes in ghosts, or what it's like for the people in this small town. But it wouldn't be of the same character of these stories, which is very much just like Fred saw a ghost or whatever.
He doesn't believe in them. They're total trash. It was a goose. It was a woman. He's not sure. He's definitely sure he saw one. Goodbye.
Yes. And yet people remain very interested in stories and movies about ghosts, like haunted houses.
So many people just believe in ghosts.
Yeah.
Like, it's very common to believe in ghosts. I don't think it's considered, maybe talking about them and obsessing over them is considered a little bit like weird or offbeat, but believing in ghosts, I think a lot of people just unabashedly say, oh no, I totally believe in ghosts. And I mean, I think that's great. I'm in full support of that, but I don't think it's uncommon at all. I've seen actually some stats on this. There was one study of Americans who believed in ghosts study. I'll see if I can find it in like 1 second. The stats that I tend to find in different types of polls, like really recent polls, and I haven't gone and vetted each of these individually, but people usually put a stat somewhere between about 40 and 60% for American belief in ghosts. So, I mean, that's a fairly even split if it's even remotely in that territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested in the fact that we do seem as a culture to be more open-minded with ghosts than we are about other type of fantastical creatures like cryptids or something.
Yeah,
cryptids are a very like fun local story. You know, actually, I love cryptids. I know you're not really like a Bigfoot guy. I love thinking about cryptids from like a really local kind of urban legend perspective. And do you know about the Montauk Monster?
No.
So this thing washed up on the beach in Montauk like pretty recently. I want to say like 2008. Yeah, 2008. You can Google pictures of it because this was 2008. People took pictures of it with their cell phone. And most likely it is like a partially decomposed raccoon.
Okay.
Like hairless. But it looks very strange. You know, it's not immediately recognizable as one of our regular, you know, Eastern woodland critters. And so now they kind of spun off this very modern cryptid.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm looking at this.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I do think that is kind of like one of the only hopes we have for something like a spooky local story. I live on Lake Champlain. Lake Champlain is like my lifeblood. I love it so much. And there's Champ, the lake monster. And there's a whole history of Champ sightings. And, you know, whenever we're out there, we're like, oh, I think I saw her. And it's great. So I think that is one way that like local flair kind of keeps some mystery.
Yeah.
Just out and about, even if it's totally silly, even if there's no weird specimen that washes up on your beach. It's just like a fun local thing that people want to buy into because it's like a shared joke, or it's like a little local history. So cryptids, that's why I like them so much. They give us that. But for the most part, like people are not open to the existence of strange creatures. I don't know really where we're at with aliens, but people definitely get made fun of if they're like alien enthusiasts, like, you know, the whole like aluminum foil cap thing and living in trailers and like deep in conspiracies. I think some people would poke fun at another person for believing in ghosts, but again, just so many people will straight up say they believe in them. And I'm really interested in why ghosts seem to be special in that regard. In a way, they seem very simple and basic, even though there's like a whole taxonomy of different types of hauntings and different types of spirits. But you don't have to buy into very much lore. There's not a lot of mental gymnastics there if you're just catching fleeting glimpses of people that we've lost. And it's both creepy and comforting, isn't it?
Yeah. I really like the question, why are ghosts special in this respect? They seem special in two respects to me, given what you were just saying. One is people, I think, are more inclined to believe in ghosts as opposed to Bigfoot or aliens or whatever. I don't know if that's true, but I'm kind of inferring that based on what you said. I would be very surprised if 40 to 60% of Americans believed in Bigfoot.
Definitely not. Aliens has a way higher stat. I have seen recent numbers on that.
Yeah, there you have to distinguish.
You can also open that up a lot.
Yeah, like
yes,
what is it? Because I probably believe that there could be aliens out there somewhere, but...
Right. Are we talking about like microbes on other planets, or are we talking about like little green men visiting the United States, New Mexico in saucers?
Yeah. But then I was curious when you said you think that the kind of the Montauk Monster thing is basically that's what we can get nowadays as far as having fun stories like this. And that just feels a little odd to me. If people are more likely to believe in ghosts, then why can't we get this sort of local haunting in the form of, you know, the ghost down at the meat shop or whatever, or at the roller rink? But the question that feels really like philosophically rich to me here is the one about why people are more likely to, why ghosts feel more acceptable in some sense than some of these other possibilities. And two things come to mind for me. In addition to what you said, I think the simplicity is a big part of it, that they're like, ghosts are like the elementary haunting things. Like
there are gateway monsters.
I wasn't quite sure if I agreed when you said you don't have to do a lot of mental gymnastics. I think it depends on the case. And I think that if you think about the implications, I would guess that most people's what they believe about the world is incompatible with what they're committed to believing if they believe in ghosts. I think there's probably some tension there. But you don't have to, it's not necessarily on the surface, so maybe you just don't think about it. But the other two things that came to mind for me is, one is that ghosts are or can be intimate in a way that a sighting of a lake monster or something else, somehow it doesn't feel like... it feels less personal to me, especially if you're seeing a ghost of like a family member, or even if it's like someone I don't know, but it's the person who died in this house 100 years ago. Like it's my house, it's my space. Yeah. And it's, so it feels somehow there's more room for personal convictions to get involved in a personal case like this. The other thing is, I suspect it has something to do with a very fundamental sense that humans have always had, that the death of the physical body can't be the end of everything. Like, it's a very recent idea to think that when people die, that's just it. That's just the end of it. Most people, for most of the history of humanity, have not believed that. And so I think it comes, even if we claim to believe that there's nothing after death, I think there's something deep in the way that our minds and our imaginations work that finds it hard to really accept that. And so that, if you think of ghosts as having something to do with a trace or a residue left behind after someone's physical body dies, then in a way, that belief in ghosts it's tying into something that feels very deep and fundamental about like what we believe about ourselves and our lives and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I also am really interested in the questions surrounding like the mechanisms of how and why people still see ghosts all the time.
I'm very interested in this.
Yeah. And I opened up last episode by talking about like psychology and studies in psychology. I hope we'll continue to see stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that there's really interesting stuff there.
I really wish that I could have or would have had a ghost experience. When I was a kid, I wanted so badly. I would like go in graveyards at night and go break into abandoned buildings under the full moon and like to try desperately. And I never found anything. Can I share one more story that's only vaguely related? But I've been thinking I've been thinking of it when you mentioned these drunken ghost mobs going out trying to catch one. When it would have been probably 9th or 10th grade, maybe. Anyway, some point in high school, for a class, this was a public speaking class. We were given the task of doing a how-to speech. So you just have to explain how to do something. And that was the only guideline. And I gave mine on how to catch a ghost. And I borrowed, my friend had this, like, it was like a white, shaggy, basically if you picture like a shag rug, but that you could wear like a cloak, it was that. And so I wore that, and I borrowed he had this video, like an old school camcorder, and we took that into a graveyard one night and filmed this ridiculous scene where this is like very basic rudimentary video editing, where like if you hold the camera completely still and you're recording and then you stop recording and you take something out of the frame and press record again, then when you watch, it looks like the thing disappeared. Do you know what I mean?
Of course I've done this.
So we did this with like, I think I rested my hat on a gravestone and then like I showed it disappear behind me and I was like, oh, the ghost must be here. And I had this whole elaborate thing about how you catch them. And I was like, they like this cloak because it like, you know, it attracts them because they think you're ghost-like. And then I had this noise that I made that I said was a ghost call. And like, you've got to first learn how to make this noise. And it was, I don't think this will show up on a recording, but I can try to, it was.
Oh, yeah. Basically just like isolated vocal fry.
Yeah. It's like that channels them, and then you've got to really be on the lookout. And I can't remember what mechanism I had for actually catching them, whether it was like a container or like, I think it might have been a big bag or something. Like you get the ghost in the bag. And I ended up getting like not a terrible grade on this, although the teacher was like, what the hell? Like, this is not a real how-to
So this wasn't exactly the assignment, but it was a lot of effort went into this.
Exactly.
Okay, Doug, that is like a half step removed from wearing a sheet and running around.
I know. I was indeed in the graveyard at night wearing a ghost costume.
That is why we're friends. That is a great story. You are a never-ending well of amusing stories. I feel like you're so young to have so many good stories.
It's because I got them all out of the way when I was young. I seriously was like, I didn't do any kind of school stuff. I just didn't really take that too. I was just doing pranks and pushing the limits, shaking things up for a long time, and then I grew up and I was like, all right, it's time to live on the straight and narrow and do things in a more regular way.
All right. What will you take away from this conversation, parts 1 and or 2?
Oh, I will definitely, like, those stories are gonna stick with me. Both the stories themselves and just I didn't know what journalism was like in that time. I didn't know that you would find that sort of thing in newspapers. That's really cool. I also didn't know about the ghost panic. It's surprising to me because I love, as I've said, I love the whole scene of Victorian ghost stories. But I had never heard these stories. So that's definitely going to stick with me. I'm really interested, like what I've been thinking about in general is I'm just really interested in what contributes to a ghost panic and what is it like for the people who are going through it. I feel like in the case where we talked about vampire hunters, I really had a good sense. Somehow in my mind, I was able to recreate what it would feel like to actually feel that like there is this vampire sucking the life force out of my loved ones and I've got to go kill it. With the ghost case, I still haven't got there in my mind. It still feels a bit...
I think it's because it is not as coherent.
Yeah, it feels like some like capers. It feels like people out having a lark.
So many larks to be had.
And yet I know that at the root of it, some of these people in some of these cases, some of it had to be real. Like there were people who were genuinely afraid and probably not just one. Like I think that the prank stuff that we're talking about is only possible in the context where there is genuine fear as well. What are you going to take with you?
Yeah, I found the ghost panics so fascinating. I think it's because this, you know, as you said before, ghosts can feel very personal and we associate them with houses a lot. This spills that out into the streets in such a big, flashy, public way.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That makes them newsworthy. Yeah, so I loved thinking about that. And I also, like, for me, this whole research process has put me in a Christmas mode that it was not at all about consumerism, and that is so well suited for me, but that is genuinely Christmassy historically. And like, yes, I love ghosts so much, but it was more than that.
Yeah.
Like I've really been enjoying having ghosts on the brain these winter nights and thinking about old Christmases and how those intersect. That's just a version of Christmas that I can really, really get behind. And yeah, I mean, it's inspirational. Like you and I are writing serialized Victorian style ghost stories to each other right now.
We are. Indeed, yeah.
Yeah, the other thing that I would just say, like, kind of in conclusion, is that I really stand by the fact that ghosts are a good way to connect with people. And
yeah,
yes, maybe it's not something you ask a stranger about, or maybe it is, go for it. But it's really fun to ask people in your life about what they think of ghosts. Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever seen a ghost? A lot of people respond very positively to those types of questions. And sometimes it's kind of surprising that a person who you might expect to not have any stories actually has a great story. I think a lot of people have stories and like to talk about them. So whether at Christmas or not, like I just really think that ghost stories are a wonderful way to be human and to connect with other humans. My wish is that more ghosts start to actually show up.
Yeah, let's bring them back.
Yeah.
Let's summon them. I love that bit of advice, and I didn't know. Like I don't tend to ask people about ghosts, and now I will. I'm really excited, actually.
I'm sensing the perfect New Year's resolution for you.
I've been kind of chastened by, I have a lot of weird, very niche interests, and I, for the most part, just don't talk about them because there aren't a lot of people who are interested in them. My interest in horror in general is widely shared, widely enough that but I'm interested in a lot of philosophical questions around this stuff that sometimes I'm a little worried about annoying people.
You should start a podcast.
There we go.
Class dismissed. Your hosts for the podcast are Doug and Tara. Tara and Steve produce it, and the music and sound design you hear were created by Steve. You, kind listener, are the most important part. Thanks for being here.